Hi everyone, and welcome to part 2 of Geometry, Lesson 8.2, Trigonometric Ratios. So we're going to talk about some applications of the trig functions. So what we can do is use the trig functions to create equations. And we can solve these equations to find missing side lengths in right triangles. So I have an example here. If I know that my angle is 40 degrees, and I want to know the adjacent side, and I know the hypotenuse is 10, what we can do is set up an equation that looks like this. So to solve for x, I would multiply by 10 on both sides of this equation. So I would get 10 times the cosine of 40 equals x. And I can put this right into my calculator, and I would get about 7.66. Now, please notice, when I multiply by 10, it goes outside of the cosine because the cosine is happening on an angle. This can't be separated. I cannot divide by cosine. I can divide by cosine of 40 though. But the cosine and the 40 are basically like stuck together. You cannot separate them. Anything you do has to happen outside of that function. So let's take a look at some examples to see if I can clarify that a bit more for you. In example 4, they ask you to find the length of each side. They want you to round to the nearest hundredth. So in letter A, they want you to find AB, which is right here. And they've given you this angle 41 degrees and the side over here, which is 6.1. Now notice the 41 is opposite the 6.1. So this is the opposite side. And I want to find the length of AB. So the first thing that you need to do is figure out which ratio to use. Should I use sine, cosine, or tangent? Look at the sides that they've given you and make a decision. Sine, cosine, or tangent. Then I'm going to show you how to set up that equation. Okay, so I picked tangent because I have the 41 here, and I know the opposite side is 6.1, and I want to know about the adjacent side down here, AB. So what I did is I set up an equation that says the tangent of my angle is going to equal the opposite side over the adjacent side. So this is my equation. Now, we need to solve this equation to find out what AB is. But notice AB is in the denominator. So what I'm going to need to do is multiply by AB on both sides to get it out of the denominator. And then I need to divide to get AB alone. So let's see what that work is going to look like. So here I multiplied by AB on both sides, and I got AB times the tangent of 41 is going to equal 6.1. Then I divided by the tangent of 41 on both sides. I have 6.1 divided by the tangent of 41. Now notice, I haven't actually put anything into my calculator yet. What I'm going to do in my calculator is actually type in 6.1 divided by tangent 41. And I type it in all at once because I should not round the tangent of 41. And if I type that in first and get a decimal number, I'm going to need to round it, and that would be bad. We want our answers to be accurate. So I typed that into my calculator, and I ended up with AB, that's approximately 7.02 inches. So we're going to do another example. In part B, they ask you to find the length of MP, which is here. And they've given you angle N is 20. They've given you this side here, which is 8.7. So see if you can decide on a ratio to use, sine, cosine, or tangent, and then see if you can set up an equation and try and solve it. And then press play on this video to see if you're right. I decided to use sine because here's my angle. I wanted the opposite side, and they've given me the hypotenuse side. So that's sine, because those are the measurements that we have and that we want. Opposite and hypotenuse is sine. So I set up my equation to say sine of 20 degrees equals MP over 8.7. Then I knew I needed to get MP alone, so I multiplied by 8.7, so it's alone. And now I just type this into my calculator, and I got MP is about 2.98 centimeters. So we have another example of this coming up. In part C of example 4, they wanted you to find the length of YZ, which is up here. Okay? So pause this video, see if you can figure out what function to use, set up an equation, and try to find that value, and then press play to see if you're right. I decided to use the cosine function because here's our angle. We have the adjacent side given to us, and we want the hypotenuse side. And cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So I got the equation that says the cosine of 38 degrees equals the adjacent side over the hypotenuse side. Okay, so now I need to solve for YZ, and that's in the denominator again. So I'm going to multiply on both sides of my equation by YZ to get it out of the denominator. So I get YZ equals the cosine of 38. Sorry, YZ times the cosine of 38 equals 12.6. Then to finish solving for YZ, I'm going to divide by the cosine of 38. So I get 12.6 divided by the cosine of 38. And then I type that directly into my calculator, just as it's written, and I found out that YZ is about 15.99. So that's it for that example. Time for a check it out question. In check it out number 4, they ask you to find each length and round to the nearest hundredth. So they've given you 4 questions here. So pause this video and see if you can figure out each measurement, and then press play to see our last example. In example 5, it says, a contractor is building a wheelchair ramp for a doorway that is 1.2 feet above the ground. To meet ADA guidelines, the ramp needs to make an angle of 4.8 degrees with the ground. To the nearest hundredth of a foot, what is the horizontal distance covered by the ramp? So you'll notice they've given us a picture here. AC is the ramp length, AB is the height, and CB is the horizontal distance covered by the ramp. So they've given you the measurement for angle C is 4.8. They gave you the height of AB is 1.2, and they want you to find CB. So make a decision on which trig function to use, see if you can write an equation and solve it, and then press play to check your answer. I decided to use the tangent function because I'm given the opposite side, AB, and I need to figure out the adjacent side, CB. So I did the tangent of 4.8 equals the opposite over adjacent, which is 1.2 over BC. Now I need to solve for BC, so I'm going to multiply by BC on both sides to get BC times the tangent of 4.8 equals 1.2. Then I'm going to divide to get BC alone, and I got 1.2 divided by the tangent of 4.8. I typed that directly into my calculator, and I got this decimal number, but they say to round to the nearest hundredth of a foot, so I needed to round to 14.29 feet. Okay, now one more reminder. When the variable is on the bottom, what you want to solve for, you have to multiply to get it out of the denominator, and then divide to get it alone. So it's like you're switching these two things. If the variable is on the top, you don't need to do that. You can just multiply by whatever number's on the bottom and then you can finish your question by typing it into a calculator. So this can be a little confusing. Let me know if you have questions. And you have one more check it out question coming up. In check it out number 5, they want you to find AC, which is the length of the ramp in example 5. And they want you to do it to the nearest hundredth of a foot. So see if you can find that. And then turn in your answers to all of the check it out questions. Okay, let me know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to help you.